Which free agent forward should the Blackhawks pursue this summer? I'll share my favorite options and we'll react to the Athletics' full 7 round mock draft.
Your Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, just a quick reminder, the best way for you all to help support the channel is by hitting that like button, commenting down below as well as to which forwards, free agent forwards, I should say, you would like to see the Chicago Blackhawks pursue here this summer. Go and let me know down below in the comments section. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube as well. I'm going to be continuing to pump out the content before the NHL draft goes down. Just 8 days from now, free agency is going to follow as well, plus all the other great stuff that I'm going to be talking about throughout the course of the summer. You're not going to want to miss out on that, so please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Won't cost you anything and really does go a long way for yours truly. Last but certainly not least, got to let you all know today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Make sure to go and download the Game Time app right now. And when you do, create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off to the sporting events, concerts, or theater events near you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Kicking things off on the show here today, I'm going to be talking about the top free agent forwards available on the market here this summer and which ones in particular I think the Blackhawks and general manager Kyle Davidson should try to pursue. And I've already broken down the free agent goaltenders, the options that I think KD should go after. Same with the free agent defensemen. If there's anyone in particular you want to hear my thoughts about from the free agent goalie market or the free agent defenseman market, you can easily find those episodes on my channel. But the forward position is probably the most intriguing one for the Chicago Blackhawks here this summer. And we know that Kyle Davidson does want to be adding pieces to the top 6 and maybe even to the top 9 to help this dreaded offense score more goals and also in theory help this team win more games this upcoming season. That's the real big picture goal of the Blackhawks for the 2024-2025 season. It's to be better than they were last year and to finally take that step forward in their rebuild. And they absolutely need help on the offensive side of things in order to get that job done. However, one thing I do want to clarify off the top, and I've reiterated this time and time again, but I still think the Blackhawks are 1 year removed from making that big splash. And I don't believe they're going to be going after some of the biggest names on the free agent market here this summer. That's just my opinion, though. But I just kind of struggle to see Kyle Davidson, considering the Blackhawks aren't ready to win yet and be in that playoff contention spot. And also with how loaded the 2025 free agent class is. I don't know if they want to be giving out top dollar now. And we know Kyle Davidson has been reluctant to dish out long-term contracts to anyone not named Alex Vlasic so far since taking over as general manager. So quite honestly, I think we're going to see the Blackhawks stick to their plan and the path that they've been on recently, and that's dishing out short-term deals, but with high AAV, high money for players to intrigue them to sign in Chicago because, you know, these guys are hitting the open market. The Blackhawks aren't going to be competing for the Stanley Cup next year. It's not exactly the most popular destination as of now, although Connor Bedard is sure to help with that. And I think that kind of mindset is absolutely going to change over the next couple of years. I really do believe the Blackhawks are, in the city of Chicago, is going to become a popular free agent destination once again in the NHL. But I don't think they're going to be going after the big dogs. I'm just going to say it off the top. I don't think Sam Reinhart is in the cards. He's going to sign for an absolute ton of money here this summer, coming off of a career year. But he's going to be 29 years old next year. Jake Gensel, I've already talked about him. He's going to be 30 years old and command top dollar. I don't see KD going that route. Steven Stamkos, yeah, he scored 40 goals this year, but he's 34 years old. Patrick Kane, I've already had that conversation. And even guys like Jonathan Marchessault, maybe even Elias Lindholm. could be a little bit too pricey, or could be guys that are seeking long-term deals or want to win that necessarily don't blend with, I think, what the Blackhawks are trying to do right here, right now. Now, if they went and signed Jonathan Marchessault to a cheap 2-year deal, relatively cheap 2-year deal, and he's willing to take on that short-term contract, I wouldn't hate it. I just don't necessarily think the two sides mesh, and that's what needs to happen in free agency. So the names that are intriguing to me, I got a handful of them here for you Blackhawks fans, and also the number of free agent forwards that we see the Blackhawks add, I think is still up for grabs. I think it's at least going to be two, but it could be maybe even one more depending on some of the decisions they still have to make on pending restricted free agents like Colin Blackwell, Taylor Radish, Joey Anderson. We kind of got to await those decisions still at this point in time. But a couple of guys that I think are intriguing among the free agent forwards this summer, first and foremost, is Matt Duchene, who, of course, was a high draft pick himself way back in 2009, the third overall pick. Still only 34 years old. I know, past his 30s, but still playing some really good hockey, coming off a year in which he had 65 points, 25 goals, and 40 assists in 80 games for the Dallas Stars in a top 6 to middle 6 role. Also had 56 points in 71 games the year prior, 22 goals and 34 assists. And during the 2021-2022 campaign, he absolutely exploded. A career best 86 points, 43 goals along with it, and has kind of had a rejuvenation, if you will, the last couple of seasons, and has showed that he could still play a top 6 type of game. And I really do think this could be the type of ad that the Blackhawks are looking for. And it, again, depends what Matt Duchene wants. Does he want to go win? Then maybe he's not thinking Blackhawks. But for someone that can get a good opportunity here in Chicago in the top 6, and like I said, they can give him, $4 to $5 million if he's willing to sign a 2-year deal. And I think he's the type of guy who will mesh well with what Connor Bedard and the speed and the skill game that he provides. I think he's a natural kind of top 6 fit who also brings a veteran presence along with it. So Matt Duchene, I think, is a viable candidate for the Blackhawks on the free agent market compared to, yes, I know he's not as exciting as Sam Reinhart, Jake Gensel, Stamkos, those type of guys. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I just don't see the Blackhawks doing that this summer. We'll see if that ultimately winds up happening. Another name that's gotten a lot of intrigue from numerous Blackhawks fans has been Teuvo Teravainen, who, of course, they selected as the 18th overall pick in the 2012 NHL draft. How about this? Teuvo Teravainen turns 30 in September. Where has the time gone? But spent the last handful of years with the Carolina Hurricanes after being traded from the Blackhawks as part of that Brian Bickle trade. And this past year, he recorded 53 points, 25 goals, and 28 assists in 76 games for Carolina. But it's been a little bit of a sluggish past few campaigns for Teuvo Teravainen. I'd call 3 of his last 4 seasons down seasons. And during the 2022-2023 season, he only had 37 points, 12 goals, and 25 assists in 68 games. So not kind of trending in the right direction as he's about to cross that 30-year-old plateau. I think Teuvo, I wouldn't be mad about it. I just think I'd personally rather have Matt Duchene. If we're comparing them one by one, that's just the direction that I would rather go. And you also have to wonder how much Kyle Davidson wants to be bringing back former players when that was kind of a mantra of the guy who preceded him as general manager, right? I don't know if that's going to weigh in the Teuvo Teravainen discussion whatsoever. It is just one thing to consider. I wouldn't be mad about them bringing back Teuvo, but I think there are more intriguing options out there on the market. Chandler Stevenson is an interesting one. A different type of player than Matt Duchene and Teuvo Teravainen. 6 foot, 210 pounds, has a little bit more beef to him, if you will, and can play with that sandpaper, but has shown some good offensive abilities the last few years with the Vegas Golden Knights as well, a big part of their Stanley Cup winning team, and he only turned 30 years old back in April. So 1 year older than Teuvo Teravainen and a couple years younger than Matt Duchene, had 51 points, 16 goals, and 35 assists in 75 games this past season. Down offensive numbers, though, comparatively to the 2 years prior, in which he had at least 64 points in both of them. A little bit more of a rugged style than those two guys. I wouldn't hate the addition of Chandler Stevenson to the top or middle 6 of this forward group. They need a little bit more edge and a little some more guys who are tough to play against, like a Chandler Stevenson. I wouldn't hate that type of signing whatsoever. Tyler Toffoli, kind of a one-trick pony, someone who can score goals, but the Blackhawks need help in that department. And he's got some good size to him too. 6 foot, 200-pound forward who turned 32 back in April. That's another one that's like, where has the time gone? I remember when he first burst onto the scene with the Los Angeles Kings as part of that 70s line, if you all remember those days. But he had 55 points, 33 goals, and 22 assists in 79 combined games for the Devils and the Jets this past year, but had a career best 73 points the year prior. However, looks like a little bit of an outlier when you look at Toffoli's career trajectory, mostly a 40 to 50 point guy, but someone who could join the middle six of the Blackhawks and step in and score 25 to 30 goals, and that would be much needed. So I think Toffoli is an interesting one. Anthony Duclair, I think, is another interesting one as well. 5'11", 200-pound winger who turned 29 or turns 29 later on this summer in August, coming off a year in which he had 42 points, 24 goals, and 18 assists in 73 combined games for the San Jose Sharks and the Tampa Bay Lightning. 3 years ago, excuse me, had a career best 31 goals and 27 assists for 58 points in 74 games with the Florida Panthers. I don't know if he's ever going to hit that 30 goal plateau once again. But his goal scoring abilities, along with his speed, I think kind of like Matt Duchene, although Duchene is a little bit more of a complete player and has more playmaking than Duclair does. But that speed and skill, that could be added juice to the Blackhawks forward group. And Duclair would not command a lot of money on the free agent market. So that can be an intriguing option. I think Max Domi, the reunion is certainly in the cards, Blackhawks fans. The 12th overall pick over a decade ago in 2013, turned 29 years old back in March, signed that one-year deal in free agency last year with the Toronto Maple Leafs and had a really effective year as a two-way forward for them. 47 points, 9 goals, and 38 assists in 80 games. The year before, of course, had his career best 56 points, 20 goals, and 36 assists. Most of that spent with the Chicago Blackhawks before he got dealt to the Dallas Stars. But the rumors are there were numerous reports that suggested both sides really enjoyed their time with Chicago. It just ultimately had to go that direction because the Blackhawks needed to recoup assets for Max Domi. But there were even rumblings that once he hit the free agent market last summer, he could have come back to Chicago. So I certainly wouldn't rule it out this year. A guy who can play a little bit feisty and can be a thorn in your side. And as we saw during his little bit over a half a season here in Chicago, some good offensive abilities as well, even though he doesn't need the biggest role in order to do it. He did have that in Chicago, but someone that can be an effective in a lot of different ways if he's not making bonehead decisions. So those are kind of the group of guys that I expect Kyle Davidson to more so target. I think those to me are the more realistic options for the Blackhawks this summer. I think, if they were to go and add, Matt Duchene and Chandler Stevenson, or Chandler Stevenson and Anthony Duclair. I know it's not going to knock the socks off of Blackhawks fans like a Reinhart or Gensel would, or Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. Maybe Marchessault and Lindholm could be in the mix. It comes down to, will they sign short-term deals and be okay with not winning a championship right here, right now? These are just the more likely options to me. But let me know what you think about all of those names down in the comment section below, or if there's someone that I missed that you think the Blackhawks should target in particular. Obviously, there's a lot more free agent forwards to go over, but these are the most notable ones. I'm not going to go through every single player, but these are the ones that stood out to me. So give me your reaction to those names down in the comment section. That's going to wrap up, though, which free agent forwards I think the Blackhawks should pursue this summer. Coming up in just a moment, I'll give my reaction to the Athletics' full 7-round mock draft. But first, I got to talk to you all about Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to the next ball game that you want to attend. And I'm here happy to announce that Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets both faster and easier. Plus, prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets to the first pitch. And with killer last minute deals, all in prices, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And I personally have used Game Time for probably around 10 years now at this point, back when I was in high school, going to see the Blackhawks down at the United Center or going to see the Cubs at Wrigley Field. And I still use it to this day when I'm traveling in another city and I want to go and see a comedy event with one of my buddies or want to go and see a concert, I always check Game Time first because it's the fastest, cheapest, and easiest way for you to purchase all of your tickets. I highly recommend you all go and download the Game Time app right now. And when you do, be sure to use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps when you create an account to get $20 off with your first purchase. Yes, you heard me right. You can get $20 off to go see Seiya Suzuki and the Cubbies this summer. All you got to do, download Game Time, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time. Segment 2, Corey Pronman of The Athletic recently released his full 7-round mock draft earlier in the week, and I thought it would be fun to dive into all the selections that he made in the first round for all of those teams, and also talk about who he had the Blackhawks picking with the second and 18th overall selections, as well as who they took in rounds 2 through 8. And I think I'm going to go through a couple of mock drafts on the show here over the next couple of days just to kind of get a sense of where some of these scouts and analysts think things are going in the first round. And also, I think it just gives you, the listener, and you, the viewer, a better idea of the order that, obviously these are not going to go as exactly as Corey Pronman has predicted here, but it gives you a general idea, again, of just kind of the ordering of things. And maybe if any shocking moves are going to happen, we get a little bit of a warning here by seeing what Corey Pronman is hearing at this point in time, especially with what the Chicago Blackhawks are going to be doing. And we know next Friday is going to be very, very crucial for the Chicago Blackhawks at number 2 and number 18, or potentially even higher if Kyle Davidson is able to make another move like we've seen from him so far as GM here. But getting into Corey Pronman's full 7-round mock draft, getting into the first round here, the first 32 selections, number 1 overall, surprise, surprise, he has the San Jose Sharks taking Macklin Celebrini. That's the easy part. But the draft really starts when the Blackhawks are on the clock at number 2, and Pronman has the Blackhawks taking right-handed defenseman Artem Levshunov. However, he did mention that he's hearing several GMs feel the Blackhawks are very high on Ivan Demidov and Caden Lindstrom also with this pick, considering the disc issue with Caden Lindstrom's back. I don't see him still being in the cards. I do think it's a 2-horse race like it's been basically the entire time here. Pronman had the Blackhawks taking Levshunov, but he said it sounds like they're still up in the air at this point in time with 8 days to go. We know Demidov's meetings in Florida went passed with flying colors. So, yeah, it seemed like everything was pointing towards Levshunov at first. Might be more up in the air than we expected at this point in time, as we're just over a week out. Levshunov goes number 2 to the Blackhawks. I kind of personally hope that doesn't happen. I've been high on Demidov, as you all know. At number 3, Pronman has the Anaheim Ducks taking Anton Solayev. And some of you may remember when I went through my Anton Solayev NHL draft profile on the show, I dubbed him the biggest wild card in this year's draft. And that's because he could go number 3. He could go number 13. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. It's very random with Anton Solayev. It feels like someone is going to be intrigued enough by the size and skating combination and the pro experience at a young age to probably take him in the top 10, but wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to see him outside of that. 3 is going to be a very interesting pick, especially if the Blackhawks do take Artem Levshunov, because it feels like if they take Demidov, Levshunov is going to go 3 to Anaheim. If the Hawks do take Levshunov, then it's really up for grabs for them at number 3. Beckett Seneca could even be in the mix there. At number 4, the Columbus Blue Jackets are the ones to take Caden Lindstrom. Number 5, the Montreal Canadiens select Ivan Demidov. The Canadiens picks are always up for grabs. They're the most random organization ever, it feels like, in the NHL draft. We've heard rumors of Beckett Seneca possibly going here, Tija Ginla possibly going here as well. It's a potential swing for the fences home run spot for the Canadiens at 5. The Utah franchise has the 6th overall selection. They are taking Zeev Buium, according to Corey Pronman. At number 7, the Ottawa Senators take Beckett Seneca. He does get into the top 10 of this draft, according to Corey Pronman. His stock has reportedly been skyrocketing, so it seems like that's going to be the case at this point in time, even though when I went through his draft profile, I said he's probably going to go just outside of the top 10. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen anymore. At number 8, the Seattle Kraken take Carter Yakimchuk, big right-handed defenseman. I said he could creep into the top 10 because of his large frame and as a right-handed defenseman. I had him ranked as the 6th defenseman in this year's draft, but said he could be, the 4th one off of the board as well, and that's what he is in this mock draft. At number 9, the Calgary Flames take Sam Dickinson, who I think is going to be a surefire defensive defenseman that's going to play a lot of NHL games. And then to round out the top 10, Pronman has the New Jersey Devils taking Tej Aginla. At number 11, the Buffalo Sabres take Berkeley Catton. This feels very Zach Benson-esque, and Berkeley Catton at number 11 would be a phenomenal pick for Buffalo. It seems like he's likely to fall. I love his skill set. I think he's perfect for the modern day NHL. He's going to be a very productive point getter. Getting him at 11 feels like a steal for Buffalo. At number 12, the Flyers take Konsta Helenius. Number 13, the Minnesota Wild take Zane Parekh. It does seem like he's the most likely defenseman candidate to slide, just because there are concerns about his defensive abilities. And if he doesn't pan out to be a wicked offensive defenseman, you're kind of wondering, what is he? 13, though, great value for the Minnesota Wild. 14, the San Jose Sharks, with their second selection in the first round, take Stian Solberg. At 15, the Detroit Red Wings take Michael Hage. 16, the Blues take Adam Juracek. 17, the Washington Capitals take Jet Luchenko. 18, the Chicago Blackhawks take Michael Brandt-Zegnigaard. I'd be very okay with that pick if Cole Yzerman wasn't still on the board and goes number 19 to Vegas. I'll tell you what, Blackhawks fans, if Cole Yzerman is on the board at 18, I firmly think Kyle Davidson is going to take him. I think that would be too eerily of a situation to Oliver Moore what happened last year. Now, Oliver Moore is a better prospect than Cole Yzerman is. I firmly believe that. But Cole Yzerman has the best shot in this draft class, and I think he's going to be a good goal scorer at the next level. I think it's going to translate. 18, if the Blackhawks have the possibility to walk out with Cole Yzerman and Ivan Demidov / Artem Levshinov in this draft, I think they absolutely have to do it. I like Brandt-Zegnigaard. I'm not taking him over Cole Yzerman. At number 20, the New York Islanders take Cole Baudouin. 21, the Los Angeles Kings take Liam Greentree, who, of course, I took 18th overall for the Blackhawks in my Locked On NHL mock draft. 22, the Nashville Predators take Trevor Connolly. 23, the Toronto Maple Leafs take Sasha Boisvert. 24th, the Avalanche select Julius Miettinen, who I'm not going to lie to you, I am not the most familiar with. 25th, the Ottawa Senators select right-handed defenseman E.J. Emery, who, if he slides, could possibly be in the mix for the Blackhawks at 34. 26, the Montreal Canadiens take Igor Shurin. 27, the Carolina Hurricanes take Igor Chernyshov, which I'd be shocked if Igor Shurin goes before Chernyshov. 28, the Calgary Flames select Leo Salin Valenius out of Sweden, defenseman. 29th, the Dallas Stars select Tarek Parasak. 30th, the New York Rangers select Dean Letourneau, big 6'7" skilled forward. 31st, the Philadelphia Flyers take Sam O'Reilly. And 32nd, the Anaheim Ducks take Charlie Ehrlich. If you think someone in that mock draft went too high or fell too low, make sure to go and let me know your reaction to that in the comment section. As far as the Blackhawks' other selections in this draft, 34th overall, Pronman has them taking Dominik Badinka, 6'3", right-handed defenseman out of Czechia. Quite honestly, if the Blackhawks, I wouldn't call it crazy for them to take 2 right-handed defensemen in their first 3 picks, but if it's, I don't know. If they take Levshinov too, I could see them going right-handed. Or, excuse me, if they take Demidov too, I could see them going right-handed D at 18 and 34 just to get some depth. If they take Levshinov too, I feel like they might go upside with some other forwards potentially. That's kind of my one gripe with this pick. That's just my thoughts. But But Badinka did have a first-round grade from a couple of different scouts and analysts. Dobber Prospects, Tony Ferrari, and McKean's Hockey all had him as a first-round grade. Played in 33 SHL games this past year, tallying 4 points, 1 goal, and 3 assists. However, he did have 13 points, 2 goals, and 11 assists in 18 U20 games, and he's listed as a mobile two-way defenseman with some good size, so I think it does make sense for the Blackhawks at 34. If they do take a defenseman there, that one does make sense. At number 50, they take Maxime Massey, 6'1" right winger out of Canada, had 75 points, 36 goals, 39 assists, and 67 QMJHL games for the Chicoutimi Saguenayens as an alternate captain this past year. Also had 62 points in 65 games the year prior, so been nearly a point per game guy in junior hockey for the last 2 years, and his highest draft ranking was 35th. According to Bob McKenzie. At 67, the Hawks took Matvey Shuravin, a 6'2", 170-pound left-handed defenseman out of Russia, who had 7 assists in 22 MHL games this past year, 2 assists in 11 KHL games. So got a little bit of pro action over there, and his highest draft ranking was 34th by McKean's Hockey. So 67, maybe not terrible value there. At 72, the Hawks took Hagen Burrows, 6'2", 165-pound forward, who's kind of on a similar trajectory as to what Wyatt Kaiser was when the Hawks drafted him in 2020. Played in 25 USHL games after finishing up his senior year playing high school hockey in Minnesota, in which he had 22 points, 9 goals, and 13 assists, going to the University of Denver next year for his freshman season. So still very young, but some good size, some good runway there, so wouldn't hate that selection. At 138 in the 5th round, the Hawks took Kieran Walton, a center out of Sudbury. Alex Ferran plays for the Sudbury Wolves, so someone that they have gotten some good looks at over the last few years. And then 163rd in the 6th round, this is a name. They took Niilo-Pekka Muhonen, defenseman out of the Finnish Junior League. Those are the selections that Corey Pronman had the Blackhawks. Those are the players that Corey Pronman had the Blackhawks selecting in rounds 2 through 7 of the 2024 NHL draft, along with Artem Levshinov at number 2 and Michael Brandzeg-Nygaard at number 18. Drop your reaction to that in the comment section down below. Would you call that first round a win for the Blackhawks if that's what they walked away with? Coming up in just a moment, before I wrap things up, I do still have to get into a guy I just mentioned, Tarik Parasak's 2024 NHL draft profile. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Again, just a reminder to like, comment, subscribe. It's the best way to support the show, so I greatly appreciate it. And also, make sure to go and check out the new Locked On Sports Today, because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So make sure to go and check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and to subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, another NHL draft profile to get into here on the show today. The one that I'm going to be breaking down is none other than Tarik Parasak. And if there is a player in particular that you want to hear my thoughts about, I've covered all of the notables at this point in time. You can easily find all of my NHL draft profile episodes on my channel under the NHL Draft Profile playlist. And again, just a friendly reminder to hit that old subscribe button if you haven't done so already. But Tarik Parasak, a very high-octane offensive winger, 5'11", 180 pounds, just turned 18 back in May, so one of the younger players in this year's draft. And how about these numbers, Blackhawks fans? 105 points, 43 goals, and 62 assists in 68 QMJHL in 68 WHL games for the Prince George Cougars in his first year in the league as a 17-year-old. Because of his wicked offensive numbers, they dubbed him the super rookie up in Prince George. Good for 8th in the WHL in scoring again in his first year in the league. He didn't play in the WHL the year prior. Well, he did a little bit. He got 4 regular season games of action and 1 postseason game, but he came from he came from prep school, excuse me, in the Canadian Scholar League, I believe is what they called it there. But very young in his junior process and hit the WHL and had no problem putting up real good numbers there. As far as the rankings go for Parasak, kind of all over the board here. A lot of variance. 36th by Elite Prospects, 27th by Bob McKenzie. How about our boy Craig Button? He's got him as a lottery pick, 13th by Craig Button. And then we get 85th by Tony Ferrari. That's right. Tony Ferrari has this guy as a late third round pick, while Craig Button has him going in the lottery. He's 39th, according to McKeen's Hockey, 28th by Chris Peters, 28th by Daily Faceoff, 23rd by Sportsnet, and 28th by Dobber Prospects. So kind of all over the board there. Some people feel like he could be selected in the late 20s. Some people feel like he could be up for grabs potentially when the Blackhawks hit the clock for the first time in the second round at number 34. As far as the strengths and weaknesses here for Parasak's game, first thing that's notable when you watch him, like there is a lot of offensive upside here. And I think his best asset offensively is his high hockey IQ, number one, and just his well-rounded game. He can go out there and do everything. And I feel like he's always in the right spots. Like he reads plays really well. It seems like he's always in the dangerous areas or the timing, it just feels like it's perfect. Like he's in the right place at the right time so frequently to jump on a rebound or finds a teammate in the right spot to create a goal. He can do it all. And he's got some very good vision, some very high hockey IQ, good game recognition, capable of making the extra pass when the play calls for it, can blow it by the opposing goaltender when he's got a lane to shoot. I really like his offensive game. I do think in terms of goal scoring and passing, I think he's more of a playmaker than a goal scorer, but he's got a good curl and drag wrister, uses traffic really well, some good accuracy along with it. And one thing I really like as well is that he scores a lot of goals in the dirty areas. He's willing to go there in front of the net. One thing that jumped out to me as well on the power play for Prince George this year, he spent a lot of time and did a lot of his best work from down low near the goal line, jamming goals home there, almost like vintage Jonathan Taves did when he was a young lad in the NHL. Tarek Parasak does a lot of that same stuff and reads plays really well from down there to find the open man in the bumper slot as well. So I feel like he's got a combination of skill and the willingness and the want to be gritty. And he kind of can be effective in a lot of different ways as a passer, as a goal scorer, on the power play, in different spots. He's got a very diverse offensive skill set, and I think there's a lot of runway there as a young kid who just turned 18, a couple of weeks ago here, was a 17-year-old in the WHL. First time he's ever played in a league of that caliber, and he passed with flying colors. So I think this kid's got an offensive wizard type game, has kind of been some of the verbiage that I've heard around him. And all in all, just a really smart playmaker that can be a goal scorer as well. As far as the weaknesses go, the biggest thing is that he clearly doesn't possess that top level speed or acceleration that you want out of a high end prospect in today's NHL, with the game just getting faster and faster and faster. He's also not really known for his defensive abilities, which you kind of hear that time and time again about some of these kids. But it does feel like for Parasak, like there's really no engagement. There's no physicality. There's no board battles there. Not the most willing back checker. He is an offensive minded forward, and I don't know there's going to be any like penalty killing or serious defensive upside there whatsoever. So that is a little bit of a concern. He does have some good hands, but I don't think he's going to be like a special dangler or stick handler at the next level. And when you combine that with not elite level foot speed, I think that's kind of where we get the concerns from someone like Tony Ferrari, who has him ranked 85th, and McKeen's Hockey, who has him ranked 39th. I think those are some of the worries there. He also definitely needs to fill out his frame a little bit more, which will help him, I think, become a more effective player, because he does play that style in front of the net a little bit. Like if he gets stronger on his stick and stronger on his skates, it's going to make him even harder to knock out of those areas. So he's got to round out that frame a little bit more. It would be nice to see him kind of play with some more engagement and some more compete and some more work ethic. But those are all things you can work on with a 17-year-old. You can work on that foot speed. You can work on the defensive consistency and the effort level. Those are all things to fix. And again, still one of the youngest players in this year's draft. So as far as the projection goes, I really don't see Tarek Parasak as much of a different player from like a Sasha Boisvert or a Michael Hage, who, like, for the most part, are all being ranked ahead of him. Like, I don't see much of a difference here. And, Hage and Boisvert, those are guys that have been mentioned around 18th or 20th overall for the Blackhawks, whereas Parasak has the opportunity potentially to make it to number 34 with Chicago. If he does, I'd be all in there. And I think it would fit, again, this upside mentality that I believe the Blackhawks can have with this draft. I feel like he would be an upside pick at number 34. But I feel like he's going to play NHL games, and I think he's going to be a good middle six forward. And there is top six upside there if he works on the foot speed and can work on that acceleration and develop those things, and maybe round out his skill set a little bit more, offer something on the defensive side of things, gain some weight. Like, there is top six upside there with Tarek Parasak. And because of that, if I recognize it, some NHL GM probably does out there as well. He went 29th, according to Corey Pronman's mock draft. He also went in the late first round of the Locked On NHL mock draft. So that's where I'm going to project him to go, probably somewhere between 25 and 30. But if he slides out of that first round, man, I would have a huge smile on my face because of the potential for the Blackhawks to take him at 34. I think his offensive game is very, very good, and it's going to translate to the next level because of that vision, the playmaking, and the goal scoring. He's diverse in his offensive abilities. I personally like Tarek Parasak a lot. Go and let me know in the comment section if you feel the same way right now. If he does fall to 34, which feels like a bit of a long shot, but not the craziest thing in the world, would you like to see the Blackhawks make him their first selection in the second round? Jump in the comments, let me know. Hit that like button as always. That's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. Thank you again to everyone who tuned in. Be sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free right now, wherever you may be listening to your podcast, and to subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. That way you can get the latest episode as soon as it's available each and every day. As always, I'm your host, Jack Bushman. Find me on X at Jack Bushman2. My Strictly Blackhawks account can be found at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. So until tomorrow's episode, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. I'll see you next time on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.